Hello, hello! In this video, I show you the cage bustle that I made for my Steampunk Lolita Alice in Wonderland dress, and I'll show you some finished pictures from the convention. Now, if you watched the first video in this series, you'll see my little kind of scratchy drawing. And I drew a cage bustle that was the same on both sides. I admit that I went through several changes, went back and forth about how I wanted to do this, and in the end decided on something that was asymmetrical but balanced and very different than the original drawing. For one side of the bustle, I used the leftover pieces of that tape lace dress that I got from the thrift store, and the other side I'm going to make completely out of boning, and I'm using the very cheap plastic boning, so it's nice and flexible but strong enough to hold all of the things that I'm going to add to it. There was a lot of trial and error and a lot of changes that I made to what I thought was going to be the original design. You can see here that I've moved the cage out from under the lace and moved it around to the other side. I've always loved doing things that are asymmetrical, but I still like to keep balance. And here I'm just kind of messing around with the boning, trying to come up with something that has the shape that I want. At this point, the boning was sticking out so much that it made the lace side look really flat. Luckily, I had another thrift store dress that I was planning to take apart and use for something else, and it had a really pretty piece of tulle with a nice finished edge that I could use to sort of beef up the lace. Once I sewed that in, I just did a couple of pickups on the front, side, and back and hand stitched them for a little bit more volume. On the boning side, I wrapped everything with some black scrap fabric. I did this partly to hide the texture of the boning and also to make it easier for anything that I'm going to glue on this to stay put. I just passed a lighter over it very quickly to get rid of all the frayed bits and make the fabric sort of wrap around and stay in place even more. Now, this pink lace was actually given to me by someone who just knew that I did fashion stuff, and a lot of people will give me little trims and things that they can't use. Never did I think I would have a use for it, but every now and then I have a project, and this pink lace ends up being the perfect thing for it. I'll just say, I am so happy to live in a world where you can think, I wish someone made hot pink chess pieces so I don't have to try to spray paint them, and someone does. I ordered these online and was so excited to get them in the mail. They came on time, and I was just thinking of all the different ways in which I could use them. I played around with all sorts of configurations, and in the end I decided to use the pawns on the skirt and save some of the higher ranking pieces with more interesting shapes for the hat. Now, as much as I love hot glue, I don't always trust it, and so I did wire on the chess pieces and I sewed on the silver rose beads. I did not show that part because it's boring, but I did it, and I'm so glad because I put this side of the bustle on the side where I carry my purse and was afraid that I might accidentally knock all of my details off. For just a little bit more definition, I added black trim to the top of the pink. This also helped to hide the hot glue pieces that were not so attractive, especially because you're going to be looking not just from the side, but also down from the top. What's funny is all of these black pieces were scraps from other projects, and in each case, I barely had enough to make it from one end of each section to the other. I think on the middle one, I had to cut my trim in half and position it so that I could cover the pieces that didn't quite reach with flowers. So here I am just doing a little test run, trying to decide what shoe to wear. I ultimately decided on the boot. It was a little bit more actual Victorian, whereas the other one was more chunky and kind of Victorian inspired. But I was really liking the way that everything turned out. Now, one thing I've been working on a lot is not going over budget at the last minute, which I tend to do just to get those little finishing touches on there. I really wanted to cover parts of the cage with flowers, but flowers, even the fake ones, can get expensive if you're not careful. So I found some medium-sized roses that had nice big leaves, and I split them in half and glued them so that I would have double the amount of flowers. I also used a little sprig of, I'm not sure what kind, but they're little black flowers that came on perfect little sprigs to sort of stretch out and cover the parts of the trim that don't quite meet. At this point, I'm just kind of looking around to see where things seem like they would be kind of naturally growing out of the bustle if they were growing out of it. So I'm starting off in the junctions and just branching out and just kind of making it up as I go. I don't just do steampunk and costume design, I also do street fashion. And whenever I'm designing a ready-to-wear line, I do it under the label The Rose and Thorn. So this is just kind of a little wink and a nod to my everyday wear, which does look a little bit costumey because I think that fashion is expression, and I like to bring a little bit of costume into everything that I do. And here I am at the hotel getting ready. This, I will say, is hands down my favorite costume in terms of comfort and ease of putting it on. Oddly enough, the thing that took the longest was getting my chest piece and key pins to go on straight. I had to adjust them many times, but once I did that, I popped my cravat on, and this is what it looks like all finished. I had an amazing time putting this together, and I really hope that you enjoyed watching this series. And stay tuned, as I always say, because I have so much more to show you. I'm going to be posting up videos about my other two costumes pretty soon, and then it's on to the next thing. Thanks for watching. Bye.